Hi, everybody. I am going to post another announcement this week just so that I can go over part 5 of the final project as well as our lit study number 4, The Invention of Hugo Cabret. I know that we're still a few weeks away from these last few assignments, but I also know a lot of you are working hard and want to get a jump start. So this will technically be my last screencast-o-matic, but certainly if there's questions and there needs to be further clarification, please send me an email through Canvas and I can go over anything that's needed, or certainly am happy to talk to you over the phone or over email. We could even meet in a Google Meet if that is helpful. Okay, everybody, so I have already in my previous announcements broken down the final project part 3 and 4. I just posted that a few minutes ago. And so I just want to touch on part 5 and then the lit study. So part 5 is your analysis of the experience. So this is to be done after you have completed everything, and now you're just going to go through a reflection process. It's a great idea to review your original plan. So go back to the final project part 1 that you just turned in this week and take a look at your annotated bibliography. Read through those things and then decide if there were any gaps or issues or oversaturation of the books that you found. So for example, first let's click on the template here. You're going to use this template, make a copy of it, and then submit it into Canvas. And so it says, think back to the intent of your project, the issue that you chose. So let's just say we're talking about bullying and the different subtopics that you hope to address. Maybe your subtopics were the overall discussion of bullying, how bullying affects people, and maybe one of the subtopics was the bully himself or herself, why people bully, in order to really help those who are actually the bully. Because often we know that if a child is bullying someone, there is an underlying issue there. So maybe that was one of your subtopics. Maybe you did not find a lot of books to help the bully figure his or herself out. And that was one of your hopes that you would. So if you did not find very many books that would help you with a certain subtopic that you chose, tell us about that. If you found an oversaturation, so for example, what bullying does to people. So that, I hate to use the word victim, but for those who are bullied, maybe most of your books were targeted towards that side of the issue. And if that's the case, and that's what oversaturation would be, that there was more books targeted towards the bullied versus the bully his or herself. So that's what I'm looking for. Really, what were you hoping to find? What did you find? Did you find an oversaturation of one particular topic? Was there one subtopic that you were really hoping to get to that maybe you didn't get as many topics on or didn't get as many books on? And then just a reflection of that. The types of literature that you wanted to include. So if you were wanting to include a lot of chapter books, but maybe couldn't find that many, or wanted to include a lot of picture books, but only found 1 or 2, or just whatever you included. So it's really just a reflection there. And then of course the age range that you were planning on. Once you've done that, reflect on your project and determine the gaps. Needs, and if applicable, oversaturation. So that's what I just explained of the books that you gathered, and think about areas of your issue that you did not cover or covered minimally. So that's really thinking about, maybe again you wanted to focus on the child who bullies and really help that child understand why they're doing what they do so that they can stop doing it. If that, for example, was not a if there wasn't a lot of literature on that, then you can discuss that. So that's just a simple example. And then, so once you've kind of formulated those answers, you will respond below, and of course these little boxes will grow as you type. What aspects of your project do you think was the strongest and why? Think about all the subtopics that you had chosen, the age levels, and the types of books that you included. So as you kind of look at your project as a whole, what do you think was really strong? Did you think this topic was a strong one? Did you like that your subtopics hit all the parts of the topic that you wanted to discuss? Was the age range appropriate for the books that you were choosing? So just anything that was strong. The next one, consider the books that you included in your project. What gaps, needs can you see in relation to the subtopics represented, the age levels represented, or the types of books included? So this is going back to you're considering all the books. Were there any gaps in the topics? So for example, again, going back to my bullying, if you did not have a lot of books that were targeted to help the bully himself understand himself, then you could say, you know, I really wanted to get an understanding of why children bully and help those children, because they're not necessarily the bad guy. They need help too. They're clearly bullying for a reason, and explain that. Or did you find a lot of books, but maybe they weren't appropriate for the grade or age range that you targeted? Or were they? So just kind of reflect, were your books appropriate, or did you find once you got into your topic that your topic would have been better suited for a different age range? Once you got into searching your bibliography, did you feel that the types of books that you thought you were going to use, you didn't end up using? For example, you thought maybe you would use a lot of picture books, but there weren't a lot available. So it's just kind of a reflection of the books itself, or the idea of choosing the books. And then lastly, if you were to do this project over again, explain what you would do differently and why. If you were to choose a critical issue again, would you go with this critical issue? Or possibly based on your reflection, or based on reading your other students or your other peers' critical issue topics in their slides, or maybe going through the annotated bibliography, did you find another topic that was more interesting? Were you happy with the amount of information that was found under this topic? Would you choose different subtopics? Why? Just an explanation. If you loved your topic, it was absolutely fantastic, and you're completely energized by this whole experience, then no, I wouldn't do anything differently, but this is why I wouldn't do anything differently. So it's just your opportunity to really reflect on your experience and tell me, you know, what was strong, what could have been better, and what you might do differently or might not do differently. So that is part 5, and that is to be completed and done by May 5th. So again, after everything has been submitted, you're finally done. You're just going to do that review process. It is your final piece here. Okay, the last thing that we have due for EDU 291, can you believe it? This is the last of our many assignments that we have in this course, is our Lit Study number 4. Now, I am hoping, crossing my fingers that you guys truly have been reading Hugo throughout the semester. It's such a beautiful book. It's just a treasure. And so it takes time, but it also is worth it. So I hope you've taken the time to really analyze the pictures and get to know the story. It is not the same as the movie, I will tell you that for sure. So in this Lit Study, after you have read the book, you're going to do some exploration of online resources to learn more about the author, Brian Selznick, and his ideas behind the text. Now, there is quite a lot available online for this search. So when we get to know our author's intentions and interests and goals, it can really help us see new ways that the book was intended to be written. And there is a lot of intentionality behind this book. So I think that you will really be amazed at what you learn here. The first thing that you do, obviously, is that you read the book, The Invention of Hugo Cabret. You don't just watch the movie, of course. We read the entire book. And then we're going to, I suggest, click on our Google document that is the Lit Study. So click on the Google Doc. It's going to open up. You will, of course, make a copy of it, and then you can submit it to Canvas. And so the Google Doc is just going to tell you that, of course, you first need to conduct an analysis of Brian Selznick's website. So the first thing we need to do after we've opened up our template is jump back over here, click on the author's website, And you can see there is a lot of information. He's written a lot of books, but this website does have a lot of focus on the invention of Hugo Cabret. So if you want to click up here on About Hugo Cabret, you are going to find some good information, some cool links to click on, all kinds of stuff, but I suggest clicking on links about the invention of Hugo Cabret. And on these links, there are many different interviews that you can use. There are some cool videos to watch. There are some really interesting just resources to use. So this is where you can find some of the required information, including the interviews. After you have done the review, of course, you could click up here and learn about Georges Méliès, who was a huge character in our story. But once you've done the review, then you are going to do an internet search for 2 professional analysis of the invention of Hugo Cabret. So I just did professional reviews of the invention of Hugo Cabret, and there are quite a lot. So choose 2. Please make sure that they are real and honest reviews. Something like the New York Times here would be a good one. Or something from Goodreads, a professional review that is really going to explain and be unbiased about the book. So once you have found the reviews, you will read the 2 reviews about the book, and for each include the link to the review, so the hyperlink here that you actually found the review online, and then a quick synopsis of the review. So what did the reviewer say about the book, and what was the overall feeling that you got from the review about the book? It's just a little review analysis about the review that you read. Do that for two separate reviews, 2 separate hyperlinks, 2 different synopsises of the review. The next thing is you're going to find an author interview. Include the link and the synopsis. As I just showed you, there are quite a few interviews available on his website, so you're certainly welcome to use those. They do link out. You could use Google, of course, then to find more interviews if you'd like as well. So find and read or listen or watch one interview with Brian Selznick himself about his specific work on the invention of Hugo Cabret. Include the actual link here with a 2 to 3 sentence synopsis of what you learned about the author from the interview. I really do suggest listening or watching if you can find a video or an auditory interview, because it really gives you a little bit an extra layer of understanding Brian and his personality. Once you have done those things, you are going to come down here to your reflection. Share your response to each of the questions below. In your response, make the connections between the book and what you learned from the research that you did about the author. Each question should be about 5 to 7 sentences. So I'm looking for a nice in-depth paragraph, and make sure you're referencing ideas from the book in your response. So number 1, how does the information you researched, learning about Brian Selznick by going to his website, by reviewing the professional reviews and so on, shed light on the creation and intentions of the story? I want to see an in-depth connection here. Connect back. After I read the book, I liked it. It was great. But now that I fully understand his intention behind the story and the amount of time and work and effort that he put in to make it the way it is, I have a new understanding, a new light has been shed on the creation of this story, and explain that here. Okay? What insights did you gain from studying the life of the author? So after you found out who he is as a person, what did you gain about him to really understand who he was? And then how do the resources you explored add to your interpretations of the novel? There's a lot of key information in those resources. This is a very, very personal story that Brian took a lot of time to really connect his personal experiences and his really his vision for this story. There's a lot there, so I will be able to tell your connections as you interpret once you've read it to now understanding who he is and how you interpret the novel. So take some time to really reflect. This should be about a nice paragraph per question. Okay, everybody, I'm about out of time. If you have any questions or you feel you need a more in-depth screencast, I'm happy to make one. Otherwise, I'm signing off, and I hope to see you guys in my email or sometime soon.